Good evening and peace be with you. Welcome to Keep the Faith, Build Back Better for our families, communities, and futures, an event for communities advocating for a holy recovery until Build Back Better is passed. My name is Maggie Siddiqui, and I am the Senior Director of the Faith Initiative at the Center for American Progress. This is a nonpartisan 501c3 event being organized by the National Council of Jewish Women, Church World Service, Sisters of Mercy, Faith in Public Life Action, Network Lobby for Catholic Social Justice, Friends Committee on National Legislation, Bread for the World, and Sojourners. If you're here with us tonight, it's because you, like me and our other speakers tonight, are ready for a holy recovery. It's because we have borne witness for too long to the problems facing our communities, to people going without access to health care, to families forced to choose between caring for their children or earning a living to be able to feed them, while the wealthy and the corporations get richer and richer. All problems laid especially bare by the coronavirus pandemic. And we are all here together too, because we have faith that a better America is possible. We have faith that the policies in the Build Back Better agenda present a once-in-a-generation opportunity to establish a new normal based on our shared values of equity and justice. Now, right now, the political realm here in DC is complicated, to say the least. But we are firm in our values and our moral vision. Today's speakers are incredible faith leaders and advocates for justice from across the country, who will offer us some spiritual nourishment as we continue this fight, and who will share with us about what we can do together to get these policies across the finish line. First, I'd like to introduce Minister Heather Taylor, Interim Managing Director of Bread for the World, to speak about the future that we believe is possible for children and families. Welcome, Heather.
Thank you so much, Maggie, and good evening to everyone. This legislation is critical, and I know I don't have to convince any of you of that. And perhaps first and foremost, to ensure a holy recovery, it is critical that we preserve provisions in this legislation that invest and strengthen American families and children. We know that just in this past year alone, that some 7 to 11 million children lived in households that struggled to put food on the table. And so the question becomes, what can we do to address this reality? And we know that this legislation is essential to achieving this specific end. Well, there are several things that we can do. So do take notes or be sure to watch the recording. We can ensure the expansion of the child tax credit. We know that the child tax credit was expanded as of July, and that 39 million American households received up to $300 per child per month. And that as a result of this expansion, in just a couple of months' time, child hunger was reduced by 24%. This is monumental, and we want to ensure that this type of change continues in order to address poverty in this nation. We know that child poverty costs our country about $1 trillion annually. We cannot afford it literally to do anything less than to retain the child tax credit expansion. Secondly, we want to ensure extension of summer EBT. That is to say that children who are already eligible for free and reduced priced school lunches can continue to receive school meals during the summertime and avoid experiencing hunger during this window. Third, we want to ensure that the legislation protects community eligibility provisions. That is to say that schools that are in higher poverty areas will have the ability to provide free breakfasts and lunches to students who are in need in their area. In addition to investing in our children, We know that to protect American families, that we also must invest in maternal health as well. It is no secret in this country that Black women in particular die at 3 to 4 times the rate as their white counterparts, and Native American women are twice as likely to die due to pregnancy-related causes. And so we want to make sure that all of the provisions of the Black Maternal Health Momnibus Act of 2021 are contained and preserved in this legislation to make sure that women's health is protected and also the health of children during a critical period that will shape the emotional, mental, and physical development of children for the rest of their lives. We also want to expand access to affordable, high quality childcare. Hardworking families who may be low income need the ability to ensure that their children are provided for, that they receive quality care, and that it is affordable. And we can do this through this legislation by ensuring that these families do not have to spend more than 7% of their household income. We need to prioritize early education by expanding pre-K programs, which we can do in this legislation. And why is that critical? Because studies show that children who participate in these programs are more than likely to stay in school through their adolescence and even to retain jobs and to maintain good health in the long run. And last but not least, among the critical provisions that we want to protect and see included for a holy recovery in our nation is the expansion of paid family and medical leave. Low-wage workers and mothers who recently give birth are among the least likely to have the opportunity to take leave, to take paid leave. And that means that they are put in a predicament to make a decision between retaining employment and continuing to receive hard-earned, much-needed employment income and tending to their families at a very critical time. These are the provisions that we must protect. We must speak up. We must let our members of Congress know that these are essential to ensure the future of our nation. We can recover, and we can recover in a way that is holy, that shows good faith, that is pleasing to the higher one whom we serve, and protects and preserves those whom he loves, families and children that are held dear. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Amen. And I was taking notes. I hope you all were too. Next, please welcome Amy Jo Hutchison, West Virginian activist and advocate, to talk about the impact she envisions for kids and families in her state.
Hi, and thank you. I'm so glad to be here. My name is Amy Jo Hutchison. I am a grassroots organizer here in West Virginia. I organize with poor and marginalized folks across the state on economic justice issues. And here in West Virginia, we're known for a lot of things. We're known for country roads and coal and the teacher strikes and our mountains, but we're also known for a few more things, such as having one of the nation's highest child poverty rates. We're known for rating low in education. And so there are a lot of things, a lot of plus and minuses. When I first heard the data released by West Virginia Center of Budget and Policy and Priority, it said that if every child who qualified in West Virginia for the child tax credit expansion would actually receive that benefit, that would touch over 350,000 West Virginia kiddos. That number floored me. My lived experience is poverty. I raised and struggled myself as a single parent, raising 2 kids of my own. And when I heard that there was a possibility that this would lift 50,000 West Virginia kids either to or right above the federal poverty guideline, to me, it wasn't even a question of whether or not we needed to support this. This could be life-changing. The expansion of the child tax credit, and especially the permanent expansion, it would actually go to contribute to decreasing our generational poverty here in West Virginia. The Numbers are huge for child and family advocates. In a state where over 80% of our SNAP recipients work, it shouldn't surprise any of us that the child tax credit payments are being used to buy food. I've heard from so many moms that they're using this expansion payment to fill their freezers. In fact, we saw an immediate decrease here in West Virginia in hunger after the first payment dropped in July. Food justice and food security and access are problems here just because of our mere geography. So to know that this program is allowing parents to better provide for their families and for their children, that's just another reason why we support this wholeheartedly, especially on the hopefully inside of the pandemic. We're hearing from families that they're using these payments for things like repairing their vehicles so they can get back and forth to work safely. Public transportation is a huge issue here, again, because of our geography and our very rural areas. We're hearing that they're moving. I've heard from moms saying that they were actually able to move their kids from the projects for the first time in their lives to better neighborhoods. And we all know that better neighborhoods allow for better job and better educational opportunities, which is only going to improve a family's success rates. In a state of West Virginia, where we're quite often known for our opioid epidemic, we've heard from people in recovery who have said that knowing that this extra allotment of money every month has helped them to become more stable, and stability leads to more success in continuing their recovery. And then we also think about the fact that we have so many of our seniors here who are raising their grandkids because of that very same opioid epidemic. These folks are benefiting from this benefit as well. We're hearing that now that the credit has been expanded to include people who don't actually have to meet those income guidelines as they usually do, that now people with disabilities that prevent them from working are actually able to get relief when it comes to paying their high rent prices here in West Virginia, food on the table, or just to keep their utilities paid. When it comes to childcare, West Virginia has a huge amount of childcare deserts. There are several counties here where there's not a center. We do have some in-home sites and some facilities, but there is a huge lack of childcare. I've talked to childcare directors and they have wait lists up to 3 years long. So by the time your child makes it into a spot, they usually qualify for the universal pre-K, which already exists here in West Virginia. In the state of West Virginia, and this has kind of been touched on already by Heather, for one child's private paid childcare for 1 year is more than it would cost to send that child to either West Virginia University or Marshall University for a year's tuition. When we're working low-wage jobs, that's why this is so important, this extra support. And not only that, we have the lack of childcare, which means that we automatically have a deficit when it comes to single moms being able to enter the workforce. We also have a problem with our childcare staff working for poverty wages because the funds just aren't there to support the directors and being able to do better for their staff. Paid leave is very important to West Virginians because we have one of the oldest populations in the nation. And not only that, now we have a foster care crisis with rumored 7,000 children are in foster care, again, because of the opioid epidemic here. I spoke to a mom the other day who has a child with special needs and a mother who's receiving cancer treatments, and the difficulties that she has because there's no paid time off for her to be able to care for her child and or her mother. And we shouldn't have to choose anywhere in the nation between caring for our loved ones when they're sick and ill and being able to work. This Build Back Better plan, in my opinion, is benefiting so many folks on so many different levels. It's allowing them to finally be able to catch their breath. I celebrate with the families when I hear them talk about the progress that they've made and being able to lift themselves a little bit out of the water of poverty. And we're really struggling here. And this Build Back Better program has so many benefits and so many pluses that we have to do this for our children and families, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amy Jo, for your powerful witness to what things like the child tax credit, like child care, like paid leave would provide. We need to be able to care for our families, and for us to value that as a nation, that we can do that together. And our hope is that with this agenda, we can care for not only one another, but also for the earth. I want to call on our next speaker to speak about the climate action we need now. Please welcome Dalia Rockowitz, Washington Director of Dayenu, A Jewish Call to Climate Action.
Thanks, Maggie. I'm really pleased to be joining tonight. And for those who are new to Dayenu, let me just start by briefly introducing the organization. We are building a multi-generational Jewish movement that confronts the climate crisis with spiritual audacity and bold political action. So what's at stake when it comes to the climate crisis and Build Back Better? With raging wildfires, punishingly high temperatures for some and freezing temperatures for others, and a record number of storms along the Gulf and Atlantic coasts, this past year showed us that the climate crisis isn't some far-off threat, but something that we must face head-on in the here and now. And to turn the tide of the climate crisis, we must rapidly shift from polluting fossil fuels towards an economy that runs on clean, renewable energy. So let me paint a picture of what this looks like and how Congress can help us get there by passing the Build Back Better bill. First, affordable, 100% renewable, pollution-free electricity transmitted to every home, house of worship, business, and school. And Congress can help us get there by passing a clean electricity payment plan that mandates that utilities deliver 100% renewable electricity by 2035 or face stiff penalties. Congress can approve clean energy tax incentives that drive down the cost of developing new renewable energy projects, and they can end subsidies to fossil fuel companies. Second, we can create a future with readily available electric vehicle charging stations to power up affordable clean cars at home, on the go, and when traveling. And Congress can help us get there by passing investments to build out the nation's EV charging infrastructure and approve clean car tax incentives that bring the cost of electric vehicles for individuals and families within reach. And what about connected cities with upgraded and expanded public transit systems, and where we can breathe clean air free of vehicle exhaust? Congress can help us get there by passing investments in energy efficient public transit. And we need increased access to safe, affordable housing through the construction of energy efficient units and by retrofitting older homes. Congress can help us get there by passing investments in weatherization and building electrification. And as we work to realize this clean energy future, we need to make sure that the benefits are reaching those who've been excluded or actively discriminated against in the past. We need good jobs in clean energy conservation and beyond. And Congress can help us get there, and this is just a start, by funding a civilian climate corps that can put people to work saving the planet. And we need healthy and thriving Black, Brown, and Indigenous communities. Communities for too long have been living on the front lines of poverty, pollution, and pandemic. Congress can help us get there by approving funding to clean up legacy pollution and rebuild water systems to protect communities from lead exposure and forever chemicals, and upholding the promise of the Justice 40 initiative, targeting 40% of new investments in historically marginalized communities. Now that is a future that I want to be a part of. But to remake our entire community into one that is just and sustainable for generations to come, we are going to need big and bold investments. And this beautiful vision hangs in the balance. Vested interests are mobilizing. Fossil fuel companies are going after climate provisions, and we saw that plain and simple when recently Greenpeace leaked a video of an Exxon executive bragging about the senators that Exxon has in its pocket. And corporations, including those who've made pledges and forceful commitments to climate action, are going after the revenue needed to pay for this transformative agenda. They want to keep their Trump tax cuts. So it's no wonder that members of Congress are getting weak-kneed and wondering if they should quit or delay, pass a narrow bipartisan infrastructure deal, and call it a victory. In Judaism, we offer each other chizuk, strength and encouragement, in study, in ritual, and in good deeds. So we need to offer our members of Congress chizuk, to rise above partisan politics, to take ambitious action and address the overlapping crises we face. We're glad to partner in this holy work with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dahlia. We need a clean energy future now and big and bold investments in that future, in our communities, in our world. Next, we're going to turn to what the opportunities are ahead of us for healthcare. I'd like to please welcome Laura Peralta, Chief Lobbyist of Network Lobby for Catholic Social Justice.
Thank you so much. And I am so excited to be here to talk to you about this Build Back Better package, and more importantly, about the holy recovery that we can help create. We thought it was really important to come to you tonight to really talk through why does this matter? Because it is true that the conversation in Washington can be so confusing. And so thank you so much for joining us today to get the facts. So let me talk to you a little bit about the facts of healthcare. What is very clear, and Heather mentioned this in her opening comments, is that for too long, the most vulnerable people in our country have had to scrimp and to do without healthcare. In one of the wealthiest countries in the world, it is unacceptable that every person living in America does not have health care. COVID-19 has really revealed longstanding health disparities in low-income communities, in elderly communities, in Black, Brown, and Indigenous communities. We are at this moment at 700,000 deaths and climbing. And so if ever there is a moment for us to dig deep and to get health care for every single person living in our country, now is certainly the time. We know that as people of faith, healthcare is sacred. Healthcare is life. And we are at a point in time right now that there is reason for good hope. Many, many years ago, you all probably rolled up your sleeve and worked hard on the Affordable Care Act. And in the Affordable Care Act, the thought is that we would make incremental progress to making sure that everybody had health care. Right now, we are at a state where 12 states, purely for political reasons, have refused to provide health care to the poorest members of their communities, the poorest members of their communities. And we think that is unacceptable. Earlier this spring, we were able to help work hard and get some supports to our people as part of the American Rescue Package. And in that package, we put in, or asked Congress, and they did it, incentives to close the Medicaid gap. And despite this, no state has implemented expansion. And quite frankly, no state at this point is even looking at expanding healthcare to their poorest. And again, I just have to remind you, we have people in 12 states, primarily in the South and in the Midwest, that will continue to lack healthcare access unless we take efforts. So that's what we're here to talk about tonight. The Build Back Better bill offers our country the chance to end these political games. It offers a chance to end the stark racial divides in our nation in the field of healthcare by expanding Medicaid and other healthcare programs aimed to ensure everybody has access. It also includes what Heather talked about in terms of what we refer to in Washington as the omnibus legislation, specific legislation to reduce maternal mortality that is pernicious, that is killing Black women, is killing brown women, Indigenous women as they are giving birth. And if that doesn't make that a critical life issue for our community, I don't know what does. We must take this opportunity to close the Medicaid coverage gap. We must take this opportunity to make sure that we pass the omnibus legislation to provide comprehensive tools to finally address the maternal health crisis that is really plaguing particularly Black, Brown, and Indigenous communities. That's our job. There is good news to report, because while we were working and have been working to get this bill passed through the House, we were able to get Congress to agree with us. That means that we have in the House version of the bill both the omnibus legislation as well as the Medicaid expansion legislation. It is there. But we also know that there is a lot of discussion now about creating a smaller bill, creating a bill based on scarcity. And that is not the direction we want to go. We need to double our efforts in this context to make sure that each of our members of Congress understand that the faith community insists that we close these racial health gaps by expanding Medicaid. We must insist that the faith community holds up the value of life of Black mothers, of Black and Brown mothers, and says we are not going to put up any more with deaths. The U.S. has the highest maternal mortality rate in the developed countries. It is worse than it was 25 years ago. And we know that Black women are dying at significantly higher rates than women of other racial demographics. It is unfair. It is unsustainable. It is crazy that in our country, we can't do better. So I offer a way forward for you. I offer you to join us in asking your members of Congress to prioritize making sure that communities have health care by expanding or closing the coverage gap. I offer that you insist to your members of Congress that the omnibus legislation be included in any final package that Congress delivers in the Build Back Better bill. These are life issues. These are issues about the future of our country, of who we are, of who we care for. If not us, who? The gospel reminds us. If not us, who? It is up to us to make sure that we are prioritizing the health and well-being of all people, but particularly the most vulnerable among us. Birth should not be a death sentence. Nobody should be forced to avoid going to the doctor because they do not have coverage in the wealthiest nation in America. Let's do this. Let's work together. We've got this. We've got each other. Let's make sure we come out of this Build Back Better bill and that everybody in our nation has access to affordable, comprehensive health coverage. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Laura. And you're right. We've got this. We have such an opportunity in front of us. It is time for healthcare for all. It is time to seize this moment. I'd like to next turn it to Reverend Freedom Mcadoo, formerly a chaplain for Parkland Health and Hospital System in Dallas, Texas, and the founder of the Dallas-Fort Worth Faith Health Collaborative. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. As Maggie has already shared, my name is Reverend Freedom A. Mcadoo, a clinical public health chaplain in Dallas County for over 7 years. I'm also an elder in the African Methodist Episcopal Church, where our roots is founded on social justice and equality. Being a part historically of a church that was birthed out of discrimination, when their members were unable to pray at the altar due to them being slaves, the African Methodist Episcopal Church was birthed. So this is a part of our roots, being able to speak and advocate and find ways to find services for those who are vulnerable and marginalized. I am also the founder of the collaborative, the DFW Faith Health Collaborative, which goes by the collaborative, where we help vulnerable people find timely personal health care services to achieve the best health outcomes. And as many people have already spoken about on this platform, we are talking about poverty and how those numbers and the impact of that affect everyday working families trying to sustain and build a better future for their children. Because I'm situated in Texas, I'm going to give you some facts and I'll be able to share this with this panel. And if they want to post this, this is something that is directly from our Census Bureau that was taken in 2019. People always ask, so what is poverty in Texas? Because when people think about Texas, they think about, okay, there are so many people moving into Texas for opportunity. There is expansion. We have a lot of land. There's a lot of jobs. There are a lot of corporations. Well, Texas in poverty is where one person makes $24,632 a year. For a family of two, that number is $32,634. And for a family of three, that's $38,146 a year. So in Texas, we have 4.72 million people, according to the United States Census Bureau in 2019, who are poor. How does that impact the health outcomes of people in Texas? What that means is that they cannot pay for healthcare services, or they feel that they have to delay their care. So the access to care is truly a huge barrier. It is significant. The work that we do with the collaborative is very grassroots. We go door to door, helping people find access to care, whether that is establishing a primary care physician, whether that is getting dental services, whether that is helping them get access to what has been recent, the COVID vaccine, and getting registered. Some of these persons in these communities, the poor, Black and Latino families, people who are immigrants, don't even speak the language, nor do they understand what the medical system is saying to them when they receive information. And so our community caregivers, very similar to community health workers, are knocking on doors and helping people to get access. Not only did the pandemic show and expose these disparities where everything came to the surface, in Texas, when we had the winter storm, we saw just how bad, just how rough it was for families of color. We saw people sleeping in their cars, families trying to use the heat from their engines in a garage, families who passed away. In Texas, we had over 121 deaths in less than a month due to the winter storm. And that correlation was directly connected to poverty. So when we think about health, it is not health is one bucket, it is interconnected. And when we think about what does it mean to be an interconnected community, to be people who are standing on the front lines, who are fighting for healthcare equality and healthcare justice, that's what it means to be holy. I am a Christian, and as a Christian, I understood that what it means to be holy was when I was hungry, you gave me something to drink. When I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. When I was a stranger, you invited me in. When I needed clothes, you clothed me. When I was sick, you looked after me. When I was in prison, you came to visit me. Then those who are righteous in their own eyes will ask the Lord and said, Lord, when did we see you hungry and did not feed you? Or when did we see you thirsty and didn't give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and never invited you in, or needed clothing and didn't clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison or go to visit you? And it says that our Lord says, truly, I tell you that whatever you did for one of the least of these, my brothers and my sisters, you did it for me. So I think our call is, what will we do for those who are systematically oppressed, who are systematically the least of these? So I ask you to be holy, to walk in that spirit of holiness and use your voice and your platform to serve the least of these. And I have one more story. I'm a Black African-American woman here in Texas. That means I'm in the South. I also am a mother of 2 children, one that is a college student and one that's a high schooler. I've been a single parent for over 16 years. I am also a trained chaplain in clinical care in the public health sector. I have a mother and a father who has had to navigate health systems that were complicated and seemed to shut every door. My passion for creating the collaborative was birthed out of my own experience as a teenager, trying to seek to get my family help. So at a very young age, I knew holiness was not all about talk. It was about walking the talk that you talk. I'll say that again. Walk it like you talk it. And that is a slang term, a euphemism from the Black culture. Walk it how you talk it. So I just want to say thank you, ladies, for inviting me. And I pray and I ask that we all walk it like we talk it.
Thank you so much, Reverend Mcadoo, for sharing those words and also how we put them into action, and sharing about your personal experience. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about what the state of play is in Congress. And to help us do that, I'm turning it over to Amelia Keegan, Legislative Director of Domestic Policy for the Friends Committee on National Legislation. Welcome.
Thank you, Maggie, and thank you everyone for joining us today. You know, I know that reading the news, it might seem like Washington is broken, that Congress doesn't do much. But as you've heard from our speakers, we are on the verge of one of the most historic transformational policy advancements this country has seen. And it could all come down to the next few weeks. Now, I get it. It's hard to follow everything, right? There's this bipartisan infrastructure bill. The moderates want to do this. The progressives want that. You know, what's going on? There's this arcane budget reconciliation process that allows the Senate to avoid the filibuster. You don't need to know it all. All you need to know are 2 things, just 2 things as this process moves forward. The first is a date, October 31st, Halloween. October 31st is the new deadline that the White House and congressional leaders have set to pass this Build Back Better recovery bill. Now, it's possible that could slip, but that is the target date as of now, and we need to operate as such. So what does this mean for us, right? A month might seem like a long time, but it is not. The House committees have produced their pieces of this Build Back Better recovery bill, but everyone now acknowledges that that's the high watermark. This $3.5 trillion package is going to have to come down. So now it is all about slimming down the package and getting to a bill the progressives and moderates can agree upon. So that's going to happen in conversations, in negotiations, and once they get an agreement, once they have something that has 218 votes in the House and 50 votes in the Senate, that package is going to move very fast. No more committee markups, just put it on the House floor, get it on the Senate floor. So now it is all about prioritizing. And that's the second thing you need to know. This is all about priorities. What gets cut, how much? There's a lot of talk about whether this package is going to be 3 trillion or 2.5 trillion or 1.5. For us, that is not the conversation. The overall top line number is not the purpose of this bill. A lot of talk about the progressive Democrats versus the moderate Democrats, party infighting or drama among the different caucuses. Again, that is not the purpose of this bill. The purpose of this bill is what it does for families and communities across the country. That's what we focus on. We look at how this bill, as people of faith, walking alongside the Almighty as his hands and feet, can build his kingdom here on earth. So as Congress looks to cut back and scale back, our job is to tell Congress, prioritize those policies that will do the most to get us closer to his kingdom, to the world we seek. If we put the focus there, we will end up with a bill that mirrors our values. And the way we convey that is not through some abstract large number or the partisan drama. It is through the stories about what these policies mean for real people, what we have been hearing this evening. It's that extra $300 coming in every month from the child tax credit, going towards diapers and groceries and rent relief. I cannot overemphasize the importance of this moment and the need for you to use your voice as a person of faith right now. Special interests are putting millions and millions and millions of dollars into trying to derail this legislation. The drug companies don't want to see their bottom lines touched. Wealthy individuals and corporations don't want to see their taxes go up. We need you. If we make this happen together, it could be the biggest, most important legislation this country has seen in decades, possibly in our lifetimes. What Social Security did to dramatically cut poverty among seniors, this will do to cut child poverty. We are talking about the biggest measures we have taken as a country to finally start addressing the climate crisis in a real way. We are talking about making good on the value that no one should be denied access to healthcare because they can't afford it. This is the moment. As Isaiah 43 reminds us, I am about to do a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? I will make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. We are ready for some ways in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. This is the moment. This is the time for us to see it through. Thank you.
Yes, this is the moment. This is the time to see it through. Thank you so much for that, Amelia. I'm going to turn it over now for what I believe is our closing address here with Kelsey Herbert, National Campaigns Director of Faith and Public Life Action, to deliver our call to action.
Thank you so much, Maggie. And I'm so honored to be here tonight with colleagues and friends because many of these people have been advocating for these policies, these values for a long time. This is not a new story. Denominations, faith traditions have been calling for an end to child poverty, have been working to combat climate change, all the things you're hearing about tonight. This is not the first time we're talking about this. I think it's important to remember that this is what we've been advocating as a faith community for decades, and we are on the precipice of making it actually happen. So I am grateful for all the people who are here, who have been advocating for so long, all the people who have become before us, who have showed us the way and helped us get here. So this is not something new. This is something that our faith traditions have been advocating for a long time. So this is really our moment. And really, what is our message? Our message is that we believe that a life of dignity and flourishing is what God wants for all of us. That is why we're here. No matter what we look like, where we live, how we earn a living, we all deserve to rest assured. At the end of the day, the people we love have everything that they need. We are all worth investing in, and we are all worth fighting for. And that's why this is our moment. And so again, Congress has this once in a generation opportunity, and that is why we are here. And what we haven't talked about enough is that it is time for the wealthy and the corporations to pay their fair share. Everything in the Build Back Better package can be paid for by addressing our unequitable tax systems and making things right and just. So really, this is our moment for the faith community to step up and continue to say that we are all worth investing in. Everybody has God-given dignity, and everyone deserves a life where they can thrive and flourish. So you can go to the next slide. We know that Congress is, I'm doing the slides, I'm sorry. We know that Congress is home this next week. They are back in their states and districts, and it is a chance for all of us to begin or continue conversations with our members of Congress. So we have a few ideas here about how over the next week, while Congress is home in your district and your state, how you can take action and engage. There's going to be a link that goes in the chat that you can see links that I'm going to reference here and all this information moving forward. So first, you can schedule a visit with your member of Congress during the recess. Yes, it is coming up quickly, but even you sending an email to your member requesting a meeting to demonstrate your support for a holy recovery and Build Back Better sends a message that people of faith are paying attention and people of faith are ready for Build Back Better. So in the link that you see in the chat, you can click that. There is a link from Friends Committee on National Legislation on how to schedule a meeting with your member of Congress and what that first step looks like. So this is something that you can do even if you don't get the meeting, it still is powerful. Next, you can drop a Build Back Better summary off at your member of Congress's office. There's also a link to that summary. You can just do a drive-by and drop off when they're home. And while you're there, you can take a photo of yourself outside of the office and you can put it on social media and tag your member of Congress. Let them know that you dropped by, and you can use a hashtag Build Back Better. Next, you can write a letter to the editor at your local paper. Also in the link, you'll see a link from Network Lobby for Catholic Social Justice that shows you how to write a letter to the editor using specific talking points, faith talking points around Build Back Better. So that's a really great resource, and it really does make a difference. It helps educate your community about what the bill is, and it's an opportunity for your members to see that you're engaging on this topic and people of faith are talking about this. Of course, you can always call your members of Congress. This is something you can do at any point, but why not just start doing it next week and maybe make a call each day next week? I'll make that commitment. I'll call every day from Monday through Friday to let my member of Congress know that I support a holy recovery and a bold Build Back Better package. Next, you can talk to your community about the importance of Build Back Better. It really will take all of us in this moment to make calls, to get involved. So also on the website that's in the chat, you can see some talking points on how you can engage your community. And I would say the sixth thing you can do is do not give up. Everyone here has expressed how important this legislation is, how close we are to sealing the deal. We are near the finish line, and now is not the time to give up. Our faiths, they provide strength and resilience, and being in community like this together does as well. So we need to see this to the end, and we will see it to the end by uniting and being together. So number 6, do not give up. And so thank you all so much for being with us here tonight. You'll see more from all these organizations who are represented here about how to be engaging over the next few weeks. We are in it to the finish line, and we're so grateful that as a faith community, we are not alone and that we are together. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kelsey. We are so happy to be in the fight together with you. I wanted to just close with a verse from the Quran, from my faith tradition. It says, "They ask you as to what they should spend. Say, whatever wealth you spend, it is for the parents and the near of kin and the orphans and the needy and the wayfarer, and whatever good you do, God surely knows it." So thank you all for doing this good with me. Thank you for joining us this evening for Keep the Faith, build back better for our families, communities, and futures. Peace be with you all, and we look forward to continuing to work together with all of you.